My name is Jake, and this happened to me when I was 19. It was the summer after my first year of college, and I was back in my hometown for break. There's not much to do in my town, besides hiking or drinking in someone's backyard. So when my friend Zach suggested we spend a weekend camping at Lake Weller, I said yes without thinking twice. It was one of those old reservoir lakes that barely anyone goes to anymore. Big, quiet, kind of forgotten. We'd gone there a few times as kids to fish or swim, but we never stayed overnight. It was supposed to be just the three of us, me, Zach, and our friend Dylan. But at the last minute, Zach's cousin Maya came along. She was a year younger than us, in high school still, but pretty chill. The four of us piled into Zach's truck late Friday afternoon and drove out past the tree line, taking that long winding road that dead ends right at the water. There's no real parking lot out there, just a patch of packed dirt surrounded by forest and the occasional fire pit someone left behind. I remember thinking the lake looked different that day, darker maybe. The sky was still light, but the water looked murky and black, like it was holding something underneath. I brushed the feeling off, probably just the weird lighting, I told myself. We unloaded the gear, pitched 2 tents, and cracked open some beers we probably shouldn't have had. It was hot, sticky even though the sun was starting to dip. I remember Maya complaining that the bugs were already bad. She wasn't wrong. Anyway, we had a pretty normal night at first. Built a fire, cooked some hot dogs, passed around a Bluetooth speaker playing classic rock. It felt like the kind of summer night we'd all remember fondly. The kind where everything feels like it matters a little more than it should. Eventually, Dylan suggested we go down to the dock to chill and watch the water. The dock is this old wooden thing that juts out maybe 20 feet from the shore. No lights, no railing, just planks and nails. Honestly, it looked like it had no business still standing. Zach brought down a lantern, one of those battery-powered ones that glows yellow like firelight. We set it at the end of the dock, while we all sat with our feet hanging over the edge. I remember being hit by how silent it was. Like, not quiet, silent, not even frogs. The lake was still, flat as glass. It was eerie, but again, I just chalked it up to being out in nature. That was when Maya said she thought she saw something. She pointed out past the end of the dock, toward the center of the lake. We all squinted, leaning forward a little, and for a second I thought I saw it too. A shape, just under the water, a pale grayish thing, maybe the size of a person. It was gone in an instant, and I laughed, thinking it was a fish or maybe a log catching the lantern's reflection. But Maya wasn't laughing. Neither was Dylan. Zach made a joke about lake monsters, and we all joined in. But you could feel the shift. The atmosphere had changed. I started to notice how cold the wood felt under me. Cold and a little damp. I glanced over my shoulder at the woods, but they were just as dark and uninviting as they always are at night. We sat there a while longer, not saying much, until Dylan got up and said he was going to pee in the woods. He took the flashlight and headed off the dock back toward camp. The rest of us stayed. I don't know why we didn't go with him. Safety in numbers and all that, but we just stayed there, watching the lake, and that's when I saw it again. This time, it was closer, about 10 feet from the dock, just below the surface. A pale, human-sized form, slowly drifting just out of reach. I leaned forward again, trying to get a better look, but it was murky, almost smoky, under the water. I remember thinking it looked like a person swimming just beneath the surface, but they weren't kicking, just gliding. Maya stood up suddenly, and the lantern shifted, casting long weird shadows behind us. She was whispering something, but I couldn't hear her clearly. I asked what she said, and she just pointed at the water, muttering, "There's something wrong with it." Right then, we heard a splash, a hard one, like someone fell in. Zach jumped up too, and we all turned toward the sound, but there was nothing there. No ripples, no movement, just the lake, calm as ever. Then we noticed the light from Dylan's flashlight flickering in the trees behind us. Not moving, not getting closer, just flickering. I called out his name. No answer. I called again, louder. Still nothing. We started walking back, slowly at first, then faster. The flashlight beam was still flickering in one spot, but Dylan wasn't there. The flashlight had been dropped on the trail, pointing up at the trees. No footprints, no sound, no sign of Dylan at all. Maya was starting to cry now, asking what we should do, but Zach was already on the phone, trying to get a signal. Nothing. No bars. We were too far out. I picked up the flashlight and scanned the area. Nothing but trees and shadows. Then, just as I turned back toward the dock, there was someone standing at the edge of it. Not Dylan. They were facing the lake, motionless. A tall, soaking wet figure, hair dripping down their back, arms hanging at their sides. The water around their feet was rippling outward, even though the lake had been dead still a second ago. I swear I couldn't breathe. My entire chest just locked up. When I blinked, they were gone. Not like they walked away, just gone, like they never existed in the first place. Zach didn't see them. Maya said she thought she did, but wasn't sure. I didn't press it. We were all too freaked out to think straight. We packed up as fast as we could and got the hell out of there, leaving the tents and everything behind. Didn't even wait for sunrise. We didn't find Dylan that night or the next day. The sheriff's office organized a search the following morning, but they found nothing. No signs of a struggle, no remains, just his boot, about 10 feet out into the lake, resting on the surface, like it had been placed there. No one goes to Lake Weller anymore. The dock's been removed, but I still think about what I think I saw on the edge of that wood. I know what people say, hallucination, shock, stress, but I know what I saw, and whatever it wasn't Dylan. I didn't go back to Lake Weller for 2 years after that night. I didn't even drive past the turnoff road. Honestly, I tried not to think about it at all. Dylan's disappearance changed things in our friend group, obviously. Zach got quiet, different. Maya moved to another state not long after. No one ever said it, but we were all running from the same thing, the guilt, the fear. That lake haunted every corner of my summer for a long time. It wasn't until this past July, midway through summer, that I let myself even look at photos from that night again. I still had a few in my phone, blurry campfire shots, a group selfie at sunset. The last photo, though, was one I didn't remember taking. It was completely black at first glance, like the lens cap had been left on, or it had been taken in someone's pocket. But when I raised the brightness, I saw it, just barely, a pale, blurry face in the corner of the frame, mouth open, eyes looking right at the camera. It was wet, hair matted to its head. I don't even know how to describe the expression. Not angry, not sad, just empty. I locked my phone and set it down. That was 2 weeks ago. That same night, around 1:30 a.m., my phone rang. The caller ID said Dylan. I just stared at the screen. My body went cold so fast. It was like someone had dumped a bucket of ice water down my back. I didn't answer. I couldn't. The call lasted 4 seconds before ending. Then a voicemail popped up. I don't know why I pressed play. I don't even know if I meant to. There was no voice, just static at first. Then, beneath the static, something else. A wet, gurgling sound, like someone breathing with a mouthful of water. It lasted maybe 10 seconds, then cut out with this horrible clicking noise, like something tapping the speaker. I dropped the phone. I didn't sleep that night. I just sat on the edge of my bed with the lights on, trying to tell myself I was hallucinating, that it was a prank, but the number was real. Dylan's old number, and it hadn't worked since the police shut his account off 2 years ago. The next morning, I called Zach. He picked up on the second ring, and before I could even say anything, he said, "You got the call too, didn't you?" That shut me up. I just sat there, holding the phone to my ear, like it might explode. He told me it happened to him the night before as well. Same time, same number. He didn't get a voicemail, but he said the call lasted 6 seconds. And this part chilled me. He said that when he answered, all he could hear was water, like someone holding the phone underwater. Neither of us knew what to make of it. We agreed to meet up at a diner that afternoon. We hadn't seen each other in over a year. Zach looked rough, pale, thin, nervous in a way I wasn't used to seeing from him. We both danced around it for a while, talking about work, family, the heat. But eventually, we came back to it, the lake, that night, Dylan, and then he dropped a bomb I wasn't ready for. Zach said he had gone back twice, actually. Once a few weeks after that night, just to look. Then again, the week before he got the call. The first time, he said, nothing really happened. He didn't stay long, just parked the truck, walked to the edge, looked out, said the lake felt heavy. He said he saw something small, floating way out in the center, too far to make out, but he assumed it was trash. The second time was worse. He didn't tell anyone he was going. He just drove out there in the middle of the night, said he couldn't sleep, felt like something was pulling him there. He described the drive like it was a dream, said he barely remembered getting in the truck. When he got there, the dock was gone, like I'd heard, but the posts were still sticking up out of the water, like ribs, and someone was standing at the end of them. He said they weren't moving, just facing the water, still, so still, like a statue. He called out, but no answer. Then he heard his own name, not from the figure, but from behind him, a whisper right in his ear. He turned around, and no one was there. When he looked back, the figure was gone too. That's when he ran. I didn't know what to say. Every word just fell apart in my mouth. We both sat in silence for a long time before Maya's name came up. I hadn't heard from her in almost a year, but something told me she'd gotten the call too. I texted her before we even left the parking lot. She replied an hour later. Yes, 1:33 a.m. I didn't answer. I couldn't. That was all she wrote, and she hasn't answered anything since. The next night, the call came again. Same number, same time. But this time I answered. It was stupid. I knew it was stupid, but I did it anyway. The line was dead at first. Just silence. Not even static this time. Then I heard breathing. Soft, wet, guttural. I didn't say anything. I don't think I could have, even if I wanted to. Then a voice. Low, croaking, like someone speaking through a throat full of lake water. Help me. That was it. That's all it said. I threw the phone across the room. It shattered against the wall. I should have gone to the police. I know that. But what would I have told them? My missing friend called me from the bottom of a lake. No one would believe me. Hell, I barely believe me. But something's happening. Something's coming. And I think we made a mistake leaving that night, because Dylan didn't disappear. He was taken. After the second call, everything in my life started to go off balance. I stopped sleeping. I barely ate. I'd wake up in the middle of the night drenched in sweat, convinced I was underwater. My dreams were all the same, floating alone in blackness, surrounded by voices I couldn't understand, something brushing against my legs, always cold, always wet, always that same voice whispering, "Help me." I tried to convince myself it was trauma, survivor's guilt maybe, but deep down, I knew that wasn't it. Zach called me 3 days later, frantic, said Maya was gone. She hadn't shown up for work, wasn't answering calls. Her roommate found her phone, still charging on her nightstand. All her things were still there, wallet, keys, purse, but she was gone, like she'd just walked out of the apartment and never came back. Zach was already driving to her place when he called me. He sounded like he was barely holding it together. She knew something, he said. She was scared. and I think it took her. I didn't ask what it was. We both knew what he meant. We met up that night. Same diner. Different energy. He looked worse than before. Unshaven, eyes bloodshot, hands shaking. "I don't think it wants just one of us," he said. "I think it wants all of us." We sat there for a long time, going in circles, debating what to do, telling each other stories from that night that we hadn't shared before, little details that suddenly felt important now, like how the fire had almost gone out for no reason, or how the lake looked deeper than it should have, like it went on forever beneath the surface. That was when Zach said the thing that sealed it. "We have to go back." I told him no. Immediately, no hesitation. But then he said, "What if Dylan's still there?" And that did it, because I never let myself think about that possibility. Not really. I'd mourned him like he was gone. Everyone had. But what if he wasn't? What if the calls were real? What if the lake hadn't taken him, but kept him? The next night we went back to Lake Weller. We brought flashlights, dry clothes, knives. Not that we really knew what we were preparing for. The road was even more overgrown than I remembered. The trees closed in on either side of the truck, like a tunnel. The air felt thick still. Not a single insect or frog, just silence. When we got there, I almost didn't recognize it. The shoreline looked smaller, like the water had risen. The trees looked closer. The air smelled sour, like mold and rust. The posts from the old dock were still there, sticking out like broken bones from the shallows. We didn't speak as we got out of the truck. We didn't need to. The second my boots hit the ground, I felt it. The pull, like something inside the lake was watching me. Not like eyes, like awareness. Hunger, it was waiting. Zach walked ahead, flashlight cutting wide beams through the mist. I followed, stepping lightly, like the ground might collapse. We didn't see anything at first, just the rippling surface and our own breath. Then at the water's edge, Zach stopped. Something was floating there. Not a body, not exactly. It was a bundle of clothing, wet, waterlogged. Jeans, a hoodie. Dylan's hoodie. Zach reached for it, but before he could touch it, the water moved, like something had shifted beneath the surface. Not a splash, a displacement. Then came the voice. "Jake." It was behind me. I turned so fast, I almost fell backward into the water. No one was there, but I heard it again, this time from the lake. "Jake, help me." It sounded just like Dylan, but wrong. Too slow, like a tape dragging through mud. And then movement. About 10 feet out, something was rising, lifting from the center of the lake. A shape. At first I thought it was a person, but it kept rising, taller than any man, towering, pale gray skin stretched over a distorted, water-swollen frame. Its arms were too long, ending in fingers that dragged through the water like vines. Its face, if you could call it that, was a melted version of Dylan's, sagging features, a wide mouth that hung open far too wide, and the eyes, God, the eyes, milky, blank, like they'd seen everything and forgotten it. I stepped back, heart in my throat, but Zach didn't move. He just stared at it, jaw trembling. "Dylan," he said, like he still believed it might be him. The thing opened its mouth. Water poured out, not trickled, poured, like a pipe had burst inside its chest. And from inside the flood, I heard them, voices, screaming, crying, pleading, so many. And I knew right then, this thing had taken others, not just Dylan, not just Maya. It had collected them. Zach started toward it. I yelled, screamed his name, but it was like he couldn't hear me. The thing raised one arm, beckoning him. He stepped into the water. I grabbed him, tried to pull him back, but he turned to me and whispered, "He's in there." Then something pulled him, not dragged, pulled, like a magnet. He vanished beneath the surface in an instant. No splash, just gone. I stood there frozen, waiting for him to surface, for anything to surface, but the lake was still. I don't know how long I stood there. Eventually the shape sank too. Slowly, the water sealed over it, like nothing had happened. I walked back to the truck in a daze. I didn't tell the cops. What could I say? That a lake monster took 2 of my friends? I left that town 2 days later. Haven't been back since. I tried to forget, tried to move on, but the calls keep coming. Once every year, on the same night, 1:33 a.m. Same voice, same plea. Help me.